Welcome to the Edge of Right. My name is Joe Graves with Graves Thomas. And today I have two special guests. I have my daughters, Sophia and Rachel.
Hi.
Sophia and Rachel are very special to me. They're our daughters that we adopted after my son passed. And they've ended up being a huge blessing. I'm super proud of them. And I just wanted to do a quick podcast with them, let them tell their story. So who wants to go first? Or do you want to go at the same time?
We can go at the same time.
All right. So, Sophie, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Um,
How old are you? What are you doing now? Or,
well, I'm 22 and I'm a college student right
Okay.
now. I'm 20 and I'm a college student as well.
Okay. So college students, you've come a long way since when you first came here.
Yes.
Yes. So, where are you from?
Colombia.
Colombia. Viva la Colombia. Is that right?
Viva Colombia.
Viva Colombia. Okay. So, I really didn't know anything about Colombia. I mean, I knew it was a country and I knew it was in South America. But when Carol and I decided that, we were being led to adopt, we really didn't have an agenda or a place. And then across our phone, just one afternoon, these two girls came across our phone because we were with our adoption agency, All God's Children. And we immediately called and just kind of fell in love and with these girls. And we got, backgrounds on them and then we eventually Zoomed with them. But tell us about where you're from in Colombia.
Well, we are from Pereira. Very small place, very close by Bogota.
Okay. How far is it from Bogota?
By plane, it's maybe like 30 minutes to an hour, so it's not that far.
Okay. So, and where did you live when you were little kids?
We lived kind of in a farm, yeah, with our parents there. And then until we were like, well, at least me, until I was like maybe 6, 7 years old. And Sophie maybe was like 8, 9.
Okay. And at some point you were, removed from your home and you went into an orphanage. Tell me about that. How was that?
Oh, it was very scary because they just take you and you don't really know where you're going. And then you're just there and you had to meet so many new people. And they never tell you really why you're there or what happened for you to be there. They just take you and they just put you in an orphanage they think is a good place for you. And
So just one night, as I understand, you were doing your homework and then the government came and took you out of your home.
yes. Mhm.
Okay. Um, and then eventually your parents, their parental rights were terminated were you ever told that, you were up for adoption or?
Uh, when they told us, it was actually the day they told us that we were going to go we were going to come here to America for a vacation with a family. That's where they told us that our parents gave us the adoption. We didn't know until that point.
Okay. So the information that you were getting from the adults in the system, you weren't getting a lot of it.
No.
Okay. So just kind of fast forward, at some point you learned that Carol and I were interested in you both to adopt you as our daughters, right?
Yes.
Okay. And I believe we sent like a package with photographs and stuff like that. And you got a box or whatever, and you were looking through it. What did you think?
Well, it was surreal. You were like, how do I react to this? Like new parents, new people. I didn't know what what to think at that point.
Yeah. So as a young girl in Colombia, what were your dreams and aspirations? I mean, what did you think, or did you even think about your future or your life or anything like that?
Um, I didn't think a lot about my future. Since I was little, I always knew that I wanted to be a doctor. That was always my answer when they asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up. But other than that, I never really saw myself going to college or even driving. So I didn't think a lot about my future because, you were just trying to survive at the moment. You were like,
Yeah.
what to think?
How about you, Soph?
Hmm. I always wanted to be like a lot of things. I wanted to be a nurse and then I wanted to be a vet and then I just want to do a lot of stuff. But I wasn't like very focused, I guess. And I wasn't really responsible when I was in high school back in Colombia.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, when you came here, you had both just completed what grade?
Fifth, I
Fifth
believe.
grade.
Fifth grade. And did either one of you speak English?
No.
No.
Okay. And I know that we had some Zooms
Mhm.
before we came to Colombia and met you, and we had a translator during those Zooms. And take us back to that day that we first met. What was
Uh,
running through your mind?
well,
I was like, who is these people?
yeah, like what are they saying? What do they think of us? Like, do they think we're gonna be good or, are we gonna be good daughters to them? That was running a lot through my mind. I was like, I don't know what to think. Like, I had to meet new people again and, give them my trust if I could. I don't know. A lot running through my head at that time.
Yeah, at this point in time, what was your trust level for adults?
Zero.
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 Because why?
Well,
Well,
they. You go.
broken promises. For me, it was really hard to trust adults because, like, they just like told me like, oh, we're gonna do this, and I promise we're gonna go here, or we're gonna see your sister or whatever, and that never took place. So I started like, well, I can't trust nobody. I mean, I just had Rachel, but I couldn't even trust even my shadow by that time. So
So how many brothers and sisters do you have?
Uh, 12.
Okay, so
And maybe more.
12 brothers and sisters, but when they removed you from the home, were you all together?
we were all together.
Not all 12, but maybe
Maybe
7. The 7 of us, because there is only 7 of us. They are from both our mom and our dad. The rest are only either my mom or my dad. So half.
Okay. And I know that like when we got your photographs, they showed that you two girls wanted to be adopted together, but that wasn't true for all the siblings. They were
right.
Right.
okay. Is there any particular reason why you wanted to be adopted together?
We talk about each other and we're like, we are the only ones together, and like, we could relate on each other if something happened out there. Uh, we could trust each other. We had each other's back, and we could talk with each other like Spanish. We didn't know English, so it was easy for us to rely on each other emotionally and in other aspects.
Yeah, so Carol and I went through a lot of classes in preparation, for the whole adoption process, but I think there are a lot of things we weren't prepared for. And, I think most people think that, you go to adopt children and they're just overjoyed and that it's going to be great and it's one big happy family. And I remember we were having dinner in Bogota right after we had picked you guys up, and then Sophie gave me a lecture, and it really wasn't that way. What was running through your mind at that point?
Well, I wasn't too sure about coming here. Like, I was like, why would I want to go to a country that I don't even know? Like, I had to start over. Like, no school, no parents. I had to trust these people that never in my life I see them before. And so for me, it was like in my head that moment, I was like, I'm just gonna stay here. Like in my mind, I was like, I'm not going nowhere. I'm just gonna stay here. But in my mind, I was like, well, I can't leave Rachel, but I have my other sister. So I was like, maybe I don't deserve to go and like have a life and just let my sister alone and leave her behind. I couldn't. do it at that point.
Okay. So you both like wanted to stick together and support each other.
Yeah.
Yes.
And what did you think when the first time that you saw Carol and I, your mom and I?
Uh, I was nervous. I was like, are they gonna be like the people we met before, like the adults we met before? Are they gonna make promises and they're not gonna keep them? Like, are they gonna treat us nice? Because we thought, like, we're not the real children. So, we thought you were gonna treat us different from your other kids because we weren't related. So,
And I think they told you about our loss that we had suffered the loss of a son. And, looking back, I think that that kind of bonded us all together, because you two were going through a grief process because you'd lost your siblings, your parents, your country, your culture, and you're coming to a new place. And, looking back, I think that really bonded us all together and really helped us all, through the process. But, when you let's just kind of just fast forward. We got through that whole process, and basically the way it works is that it takes about a year to do the paperwork from our side, and about 3 months before we picked them up or went to Colombia, we were able to do Zoom, so we got to get to know them a little bit. And you had these little toe socks. She'd had these little toe socks, and she would put them in the camera with her feet up. And it was really cute. And um, we went and we were heightened with anticipation. And really was good. I didn't really, I guess looking back, I just had, you just think everything's going to be perfect and it's just going to work out, but it ends up being a struggle because you have, four human beings that are learning to live together. And like you said, you had trust issues. Um, and I think you said I looked mean.
Yeah.
So yeah. So you thought I was mean.
Well,
Um,
you were this big guy, so I'm like,
tall.
oh,
Grande
oh my god.
gringo, the grande gringo.
So I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, so I get it, and then you're a girl, and you're just scared, and going to a new country and you don't speak the language, and who are these people coming to pick us up, and they're just taking us away. I get it, I mean, I kind of look at it from that perspective. I would been terrified myself. So you get here. What did you think was going to happen when you get to America?
Um, really, we were like, we're just gonna have to wait and see how long they can last with us. Like, we were like, that happened before. The people we didn't last a lot with the other family, and we were like, how long is it gonna take until they get tired of us? And it
Yeah.
just
So you mentioned that. I mean, so before we came on the scene, you had another family and the adoption failed. So you'd gone through not only the loss of your family and then your parents and then a failed adoption. Um, and I'm not sure we knew all that. So we were pretty specific about what, we could handle given the trauma that we had suffered. It seemed like a good fit, but going through all that, I can see really would make you apprehensive about, you know, giving your heart to anyone and trusting anyone. And so you get here. I mean, what did you think about like what you were going to be doing, like school or anything like that? What was running through your mind, Sophie?
Well, in that moment, like I couldn't even think. Like I was like, okay, we're going there, but like the only person I could relate to was Rachel. And I was like, I don't really want to go to school. I don't really want to try because, when I tried, then everything just like fall apart. So, I just like, I don't know, I'm too scared to just like go over there and like go to school with all these people and like I don't understand what they're saying. So I was pretty scared. So
And pretty angry.
yeah, I was pretty defensive. Yeah.
And you didn't trust me.
Yeah. I didn't trust you or either mom. So the only person I can relate was to Rachel. So
Yeah, we had some interesting conversations those first few weeks and months. You're constantly trying to pick fights with me.
Yeah.
You know what you admit now. Because you just didn't think it was going to work, right? So why try? I remember going to the beach about 3 months after we adopted you, and just like, oh Lord, what have you gotten me into with these two? Because I mean, you were angry,
Yeah.
and I think one of the turning points was I was like, I can't. Why can't I get through to this child? And Rachel just came up to me talking about Sophie. Said, Dad, she's just a difficult girl. And I'm like, well, at least it's not just me. It's not just me. And we didn't really. We knew what Colombia or the government had written in your file, but it really was kind of like the tip of the iceberg. You know,
Mm.
So it was interesting when we got you here because, we wanted you to start school, and um, you didn't speak any English,
No, no.
zero. So we tried various things, and then finally we decided that we would get a teacher to teach you in Spanish while you learned English. So at least like the sciences and the maths and things like that, we could teach in Spanish. And then, you could work on your English. I promised you that I was going to speak Spanish someday, which I don't because they learn English so fast. But tell me about that, those early days when David would come to I remember, I can have this vivid picture of Sophie coming with her hoodie on and frowning at face and looking down.
It was hard because I didn't really like it. I didn't want to go to school and I didn't want to try to learn. And having David come to the house and started like for 2 hours, I was like, why do I have to do this for? I don't want to do this. It was for me it was very annoying and I did not like it. But as time passed by, I started to like it. He was a great teacher and I learned so many things from him, and I'm grateful that he was there for me when I needed to, and he helped us a lot.
So at some point in time, there was a turning point with both of you. I could see it where we went from dragging you to the table to learn, where all of a sudden you started getting a little more confidence. Or I don't know if it was confidence or what it was. Just tell me about that. What changed? What got you going in school, though it was hard because you're going to class, eventually going to class with kids that have been enrolled in school in America since kindergarten. And so all this stuff, we take for granted that we learn along the way. Fifth grade's a pivotal year in education. But as far as like American history and, English and, you're not just asked to basically have conversational English. You're asked to, take tests with, in English with academic words and words that aren't common. Tell me about that whole process.
Um, well, going to school, like David helped us a lot when it came to like math and English. But like when we went to school, we didn't know like David speaks Spanish and we can understand everything he said. But when we were to go to school, then it was so fast. Everybody was like, oh, you need to do this. Then tomorrow you had the test and you had to practice for this and you needed to do this project. And you're like, ugh, wait a minute. Like, I couldn't understand anything what they were telling me to do. So I was so confused because I was like, okay, I'm doing my work, but like, it's not giving me the results I want. So for me, it was really hard, especially in math, because I'm not a math at
Well,
all, but
so
it was
so
really
so
hard.
so how did it feel like being in this environment around, you know, being in a different country and speaking a different language and I would think that it would feel somewhat isolating.
Yeah.
It was. I didn't like to go to school because, the friends that I had, if you call them that, they would speak English and I'll be like, I don't understand. So I'll be sitting in the side, just like looking at them, not being able to interact with them because I didn't understand what they were saying and I didn't speak the language. So it was very hard. I felt that I was alone and, I wasn't really welcome there. I didn't feel part of the, of the friendship. I just,
Okay.
You
So,
just feel
so
isolated. Like you call them friends, but like it's not really that because even though like I had a couple like friends, but like I feel always left out because I couldn't understand what they were saying because they always speaking in English, even though that can probably speak Spanish. But I feel like left out because like that was me a long time ago, like hanging out with my friends and understand what they were saying, like having fun. But then you feel isolated because you don't have friends. You think you have friends, but you don't. So it's like, oh well, what do I have here? Like anything.
I can say, I think, but for our relationship, I think it was probably great that we didn't understand each other for a while
that's true.
Yeah.
because I think you guys were saying things about us to each other, and mom and
Well,
I were probably expressing our frustration to each other. Probably
That's for
things that
sure.
it's probably better that we didn't
yeah.
understand
That's true.
Yeah.
some of that. Um, but it just seemed like really fast. All of a sudden, you're speaking English.
Yeah, I didn't know how it started. I think that, after you get used to it and you hear it every day and you had to be in school and you hear the people speaking it and then you see movies and then the music, I think it just starts to get in your head and it just naturally kind of starts coming out.
Yeah, I think it was really fast, maybe a year and a half. Like, remember we had some interaction with some other Spanish people, and you were interpreting
Yeah.
from Spanish to English, so it was super fast, and I applaud that because that's got to be difficult, and English is not an easy language to learn as a second language.
It's
Yeah,
not
And
easy.
mom helped us a lot too, because every morning when we were going to school, it was like a playlist from Taylor Swift and all these singers, and it was every morning.
It's the same playlist every day. I just gotta learn the songs.
But it was fun.
well, it's probably good you're riding with mom, so you learn words and lyrics to Taylor Swift and not Guns N' Roses and
That's true.
Led Zeppelin stuff like that.
Mhm.
Um, Probably served you better. But I know mom was a huge impact. I mean, the amount of time and effort that she put in with you two, and it wasn't an easy road, especially getting, getting started when you didn't speak. And I remember this beautiful little look you had on your face, Rachel, when you didn't understand. And I can see it. I played on my social media the gotcha day, and you just had that kind of this little look where you looked up and just fluttered your eyes and smiled, and you could tell that like everything I was saying, you had no understanding whatsoever.
I did it.
Yeah. So, let's just kind of fast forward. I mean, you get through high school, you both get diplomas, and you're in college, you're driving cars. Um, is this anything that you would have ever expected as a child in Pereira?
No, it's just hard to imagine that in Colombia, and more when you're like, you know, how to say it, poor. You don't have the money to afford that, and it's hard to see yourself being that in the future. Like I didn't see myself going to college, and I'm happy that I have the opportunity to go now because
You're killing it in college. I mean, you get a 4.0 GPA. I mean, killing it. And what do you want to do?
Um, for the moment, I want to be a nurse. And I did say, like, if time goes by and I love it, I really want to, I will go back and, become a doctor.
A doctor,
Yeah.
which is exactly what you said in your video when we adopted you.
Yes.
And what are you interested in, Sophie? What are you studying?
Well, I was interested first in criminal justice, but I don't know. I kind of shifted, and now I'm very interested in psychology because I really want like help kids going through like tough like periods of time because like I know firsthand how they feel like feeling isolated, like feeling sad, and you don't even know what to do, and you kind of like, what am I doing? And you don't even know to who turn to. So I just want to help other kids. So
Yeah, I would just say about, I mean, all of us were going through a trauma process. And when you lose a child like Carol and I did, that never ends. Like that's not just something you um work through, and time doesn't heal all wounds. You probably get, and you do get better at dealing with the emotion and how to handle it and how you structure when you handle it. But I think for me, understanding, you know, trauma and how each of us individually deal with trauma. So I think, the biggest lesson I learned was that, Carol and I aren't going to be processing the trauma in the same way. And it was described as we're on two separate tracks. And sometimes my train's forward and hers is backwards, or sometimes and I think that, in a relationship, you have to give each other space and room to be able to be and understand and what that other person is going through at a particular time. And I think that really equipped that experience really equipped us to better help you while you were going, because it wasn't like you just left Colombia and you came here and everything was peachy keen. It was tough.
Yes.
And a lot of it was the things that we've already talked about, but you're also dealing with a big loss. I remember that movie, Instant Family came out, and, we took you guys to see it, and you hadn't been here that long. But one of the most striking things in that film was when they were, I don't know if you've seen it, but when they're in the film and they show the kid and they have, like, pieces of yarn, that's all their connections, and they start cutting it and they realize, like, all these connections that this child has had with everybody that they've known and people that they've grown up with, and then all of a sudden it's just gone, and that's what grief is all about, dealing with loss and trying to understand your circumstances best as a child, your age, could. So, one of the things when Carol and I got in, we prayed about it and really looked hard at what we wanted to do. And I think it's a common phenomenon with people that have lost children, that they get involved with other children and with foster children or things of this nature. I remember like watching Hamilton, like Hamilton's wife, after, their son died, like she started the largest orphanage in New York. So, um, I think it's a common way because, as a parent, when you lose a child that age, those strings, like we have a bunch of strings attached to everything they're doing. You're a parent of a kid that's going to high school and involved in all these things, and all of a sudden it's just over in an instant, right? So I really think that all that, I know we often talked about us all grieving together, and I think that, understanding that you both had grieving processes and were dealing with your own grief. And I remember Sophie, at times would just go outside and Sophie Sophie's loud and she'll tell you what she's thinking, but when she's, upset, she gets quiet and she wants to go somewhere and be alone. And I read that about you and I thought that was really a mature way of handling things, to go off on your own and think things through, because so many times we engage the mouth before we, you know, have a chance to think things through. And I saw that with you. I remember like there was one time, you know, um, you went out for hours in the backyard, but we just let you. We gave you that space, and it was really, we started seeing this evolution with you. And I remember, I think it was one of my exasperated moments with you, Sophie, because Rachel has been, she's, I don't want to say the easy one, but I mean, as when you're dealing with childhood trauma, Sophie was older, and the older you are, the harder it is to overcome childhood trauma. And what really attracted us to these girls, we didn't know when we wanted to adopt what age or anything about that, but started realizing that older children, there, that's where the need was. Everybody wants babies, but we were older too. And so, Sophie was about to turn 15. And so international adoption through the Hague Convention, you can't do that once you turn 15. So Sophie was 14 when we adopted her and had her quinceanera like maybe a month or two later, right? We went in June and then your birthday's in October. So a few months. And here I am trying to put on a quinceanera the best I could,
It was awesome. It was really awesome. I really
thank you for
enjoyed it.
that. I tried. And then your quinceanera came during COVID, and then we just did an 18th birthday, but that was an awesome party too.
It was very great. I liked it. I loved it.
Yeah. So, I mean, those are all the things that are running through, your mom, Carol, and my wife, your mom, our heads, what we're talking about at night. Like, what were you guys talking about? Like, and I'm talking really about before that turn. Because I remember I just kind of exasperated. I told you, like, Sophie, what do you got to lose? Just try.
Yeah.
Like, what do you got to lose? And I always told you that, success isn't defined by results. Success is defined by, trying your best and doing your best and being resilient and achieving. Sometimes it's not hard. I mean, sometimes it is hard and sometimes it's not easy, to achieve certain goals in life. Right. And I think that really what separates us as humans, like who's willing to do that work, to make that extra sacrifice to achieve those goals, which is basically the edge of right. What we talk about here, the edge of right, what that extra work. And, but just tell me, like, before we had that conversation about what you had to lose, what do you have to lose by just trying, tell me about that. What were your conversations at night between the two?
Before it was the turning point that we were trying.
Yeah.
Well, before that, we sit down every night and talk about like our day and everything. And we were like, do we really want to stay here? Do we really want to continue doing this? Because what are we getting from it? Like at that point, we didn't know what we're getting from it. And so I was like, once I turn 18, I'm gone. At that point, I was like, once I turn 18.
She's 23, by the way.
I'm 22, by the way.
23 in October.
So by that time, I was like, Rachel, if you want to stay, you can stay. But I'm just going to go because I don't feel happy here. I feel isolated. I don't have friends. I don't know where to go. Like, I want to just like be more close to you, but like, I didn't know how because like we both have the same character. So it was hard for me to go to you and say like, oh, this is.
You're talking about you and me.
Yeah. So, but then, those nights, I was like, then I'm going to turn 18 and I'm going to just go away. And so she was like, just think about it. Give it some time because if you're just going to run away, I'm going with you. But I didn't want to just like, like messed up her way and just not give her the opportunity to like be someone in life. So I was like, if you want to stay, you can stay. But then Rachel was like, just try. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to try. And then we have our conversation. And so I was like, I was really scared of making decisions. I don't like making decisions at all. But Rachel was like, try, and you told me to try. So at the end of the day, I mean, I'm doing good. So I didn't lose anything.
Yeah, I'll put a little context here. We were in Bogota, and so the head of the orphanage that they were staying at had promised Sophia that she would get to see her sister before she left. It had been promising her for some time, and that promise was never fulfilled. And so we're in a restaurant in Bogota. It's a really nice area down by the mall in Bogota, and there's these really beautiful outdoor restaurants. We're sitting outside, I think sitting at a high top, I remember, and excited because we were leaving in a few days. Everything was done. The adoption had gone through, and Sophie, out of the blue, announces, they promised me I'd see my sister. I'm not getting on the plane. And I'm like, what? So I mean, this is what's running through my mind. I'm in the Bogota International Airport where I don't speak any Spanish. My children don't speak any English, so that's nothing sketchy there. And then I have Sophie screaming, "I'm not going with you. I'm not on the plane. I'm not going on the plane." That was my fear. Like, what in the heck, is going to happen here? So, I made a promise to her that I would take her to see her sister at some point, which we did. A few years later, we went to Pereira, and you're able to see your sister and go back. And I got to tell you, Pereira and that whole coffee triangle in Colombia is beautiful country. Andes mountains, and people are nice. And basically, you said you lived on a farm, but you lived in an area where workers lived that would pick coffee beans.
Mhm.
Um, and I think you picked coffee beans for a
Yeah.
while after school.
Mhm.
On our trip, we took a trip to a plantation. We're kind of the guests of honors, and I outpicked you, didn't I?
No, no.
But that's what makes Colombian coffee so great, because the coffee bean has a certain color of when it's ripe, and it's hand picked in Colombia, whereas other countries they use machinery, and so you're getting the good and the not so ripe. But the Colombian coffee is, I think, recognized as some of the best coffee in the world. But anyway, so I mean, that's the context, Sophie saying, I'm not going with you on the plane. And then I really honestly believe there for a while, as soon as she turns 18, she's out the door. We're going to do the best we can, you know, while we have some sphere of influence over her. And then it just seemed like all of a sudden, why don't you give it a try? Talk that we had, and then you started giving it a try, and things really started turning. And I think the trust started to build between us. Tell me a little bit about that.
Um, I started trusting you. I don't remember when it came naturally. Um, it was when we had our deep conversations. We spent a lot of time together. So you always talk to me like you just gotta try, and I'm always gonna be by your side, and I'm gonna be here for you. And so I didn't have somebody by my side before telling me like, I believe in you. You have the courage to do so. So, and I see like, even though you lose a child, you were just like, okay, I had to just get things done. And you just like inspire me like, oh, I'm dealing with a lot, but I can just continue going through it. So, just like our little talks, and we go like eat together. We go to New York together. And so we have our little talks. So from there, I was like, yeah, I had nothing to lose. I have a dad that is by my side all the time and just believe in me. And, I had nothing to lose. So from there, I was like, okay, I just gotta try. And that's when I start building my relationship with you. And, I'm a daddy's girl. So I always have been. So, but
Yeah, you mentioned before, I mean, Rachel kind of mentioned, so it's really wild because Carol and Rachel have similar personalities,
yeah.
and
Yes.
Sophie and I have almost the same
Yeah.
personality. And so it's really strange how God puts people together. These kids that were born, totally different country and culture and language, but yet we're all bonded together in spirit, because we have these similar personalities. And Rachel looks enough like Carol that, you think that, Sophie and I wish I was as pretty as her,
Our personality is the
but our
same, so that
personality's
that
the
that
same.
counts. That counts.
Yeah. So, um, let me just ask you both, how do you think that this upbringing that you had and everything that you've been through, how do you think that's shaped you into the person that you are today?
Um, it all this that we went through, it changed me a lot. It opened my mind more and to try opportunities, to never give up, to know that, I could do it, that as long as I do my best, I can do it. That even though I wasn't born here and, I didn't know the history, I tried and, I never stopped trying. And that's just, it keeps me up, keeps me going.
How about you, Sophie?
You, you just keep me going.
And what does family mean to you now?
Oh, absolutely everything. I would do anything for my family. I mean, in our culture, our families always go first. It doesn't matter. Like, it's first your family and your second. For us, family is really important. Like, even though we can have a disagreement or whatever, but when that person is in need or like is going to a rough time, we all come together for that
Yeah.
person.
Family for me is like, it's my life. I
Yeah.
I just love my family a lot.
What parts of the Colombian culture do you still carry with you?
uh, the family part, I'm always gonna be by my family, and my family will always have my back. They come first in my life. If something happened to any of you guys, I'll be broken. I'll be very sad. I just like to see us all together, happy, having the best times of our lives, and you know, loving.
Yeah, the same way. I mean, Bras first of all, it's like, for me, for my roots is like, I don't know, it's that, like, always being kind, always being, like, nice with other people and my family first always, and, you know yeah, so I just
Awesome. And so I think, when you first got here too, it was important for Carol and I to have you maintain your, Colombian heritage and roots. So we really, we seek out Colombian restaurants and that seemed to be very comforting to you. Because you could, the food is such part of Colombian culture.
Mhm.
Um, we take you to stores where you could buy. There's a big Spanish supermarket on West Palm where you can get all the like candy and treats like you would have in Colombia, and it's comforting. Um, and we love going to. There's actually a Colombian restaurant in Palm Bay we love and really good. And so I think it was important to us. We don't, we want you, you're Americans now, you're American citizens, but you have that Colombian culture too. And you're Colombian citizens, you're actually dual
Yeah.
citizens. Um, so I'm glad to see that that carries over. And we cook arepas and we do all sorts of things. And mom's tried to cook some Colombian dishes. And so, um, I think that's great. So, Sylvia, I'm going to ask you this question. If there's somebody out there that was in a similar situation as you were when you were a child, maybe having a feeling of hopelessness or whatnot, what advice would you give them?
I mean, don't think that you're alone. Like, I mean, if you feel like alone, just turn to somebody that you trust. It can be, you're never alone. So don't make decisions by yourself. Just turn to someone and, do the best you can. Always do the best you can.
What about you, Rachel?
Um, um, my advice would be to never stop trying. Just do your best, keep going. Sometimes it's gonna feel hard, but if anything, those times it's just gonna make you keep going. Never stop trying. That'll be my advice. No,
What would you say to other families that may be considering adoption?
you know, uh, give the kid time. You know, keep up the promises you give, because I think that's a big part of earning their trust. And just love them. That's all they want. It's just love that they miss from being in
Yeah, I think that
orphanage.
was one of the interesting things when we went through our training and dealing with you when you're little and you first came here is don't make promises. I know as like parents, you might say like something just to get a kid to be quiet or whatnot, or I mean, a lot of different reasons. But, in this situation, every adult that you've known has lied to you. And, you know, the trust issue is huge. And that's why, don't make promises you can't
Keep.
fulfill. And that's why it was important for me to make sure I fulfilled that promise of taking, you to see your sister, which we did. And we had a great time. That was a great
Yeah,
trip.
It was
it
amazing.
was a really
Okay.
fun trip.
So when you look at your lives today, what are you most grateful for?
You guys. I'm so grateful that I'm able to feel that feeling of having parents that are supporting me, encouraging me, and loving me. I am grateful to be part of your family.
Yeah, me too. I'm grateful. I mean, I never thought that I was going to be this far in my life and accomplish so much. Um, so yeah, I'm just grateful that I try, that I never give up. So
Well, you're both in college. You're both doing amazing. I'm super proud of you. The resilience that it takes to overcome all this and to get where you are is remarkable. I think you'll be an inspiration for other kids and families that are in similar situations because it can be done. I think it takes a lot of patience on everybody. Your patience on your part, on the child, and on the parents. And you just have to kind of take a step back sometimes and just let God work.
yeah.
In all of us. Interesting because you came from a Catholic background, so Carol and I took classes, RCIA classes at Holy Cross to learn about your religion. We ended up like becoming Catholic. And I think we share that now, and I think that's something that is important. Your faith, and you both have been baptized, and that's an important part of your life as well. And the other thing is just the resilience that you both have shown because it's easy to give up.
Yeah.
It's easy to just say no. It's easy to walk away,
Yeah.
right? And honestly, that's what the Edge of Right is all about. You guys are living it because life will throw a bunch of curveballs at you. And you're going to have happiness, you're going to have sadness, you're going to have good times, you're going to have bad times. But it's that ability and that resilience, the ability to overcome, which I think you both learned and you're both doing, you both live out every day. I, as an adopted parent, it is really a strange thing that God does to parents. Because I see no difference between you or any of my biological kids. I've grown to love both of you deeply. You're very, very special girls. And I will always support you and help you in your endeavors as long as we try, right?
Yeah.
That's the deal.
Yeah.
We try. And I just thank God that you two have been placed in our lives and that we've had the opportunity, and I'm grateful every day to be your dad.
Yeah. We're always happy to be your daughters. So
Yeah.
I love you both. I love you both. Well, thank you for tuning in. And that concludes this episode of The Edge of Right.